Hi everyone, I'm Ali. There are always disasters happening in the world, whether it be a pandemic, drought, flood, wildfire, earthquakes, or others. Luckily for us, Chinese people have a long and continuous historical record for everything, including how they dealt with disasters in the past. So in this episode, let's look at some examples of how Chinese emperors, as well as commoners, overcame disasters and plagues in ancient times. Let's first talk about emperors. I explained in my previous video of what makes a great emperor that Chinese emperors were also called Heaven's Son, 天子. They had unmatchable power but also needed to bear the greatest responsibilities. The Chinese character for king, Wang, is written with 3 horizontal strokes and 1 vertical stroke. The 3 horizontal lines represent heaven, earth, and people. And the king is the one connecting all of them in the middle. So to better serve under the heaven, emperors would do rituals many times a year to worship and report to the gods. And whenever a disaster struck, they would take it as a warning sign from heaven and therefore examine themselves for any wrongdoings, repent, and correct themselves. And according to historical records, things will often become better immediately after the emperor went through this process of self-examination. For example, in the beginning of the Shang dynasty, there was a terrible drought that lasted 7 years and caused people to starve. The court astronomers suggested to King Tang of Shang to sacrifice a human being for rain. After hearing this, Tang of Shang said, "I am praying for rain for the sake of the people. If we have to kill someone, then let that person be me." He then cut his hair and nails and kneeled in the mulberry forest and prayed to heaven while listing out 6 of his wrongdoings one by one. Before he could finish his words, rain started pouring down thousands of kilometers around him and ended the 7-year drought. In 论语, or the Analects, it was recorded that Tang of Shang said to the heavens, "If I have sinned, please don't involve the people. If the people have sinned, please impose it on me." That's why he was considered a sage king in Chinese history and praised as a role model for emperors who came after him. Very few rulers were able to match his legacy, but Emperor Taizong of Tang was one of them. According to a Tang Dynasty article, in the year 628, a locust plague hit the capital city Chang'an. Emperor Taizong saw the situation and captured a few of the locusts in his hands and spoke to them. He said, "People's lives depend on these crops, and by eating them, you are harming the people. If people have sinned, that's my fault. If you can understand, then don't eat the crops and devour my heart instead." Emperor Taizong then swallowed the bugs. People around him panicked and tried to stop him. They told Taizong that locusts are dirty and might cause him to get sick. Taizong told them, "That's what I want. I hope to transfer the disaster onto myself. Why would I be afraid of getting sick?" After the emperor swallowed the bugs, the locust invasion was no longer a problem. Throughout Chinese history, there were emperors willing to sacrifice their lives to repent their sins. There were also others willing to give up their ultimate power and position to redeem themselves. Emperor Wenzong of Tang was also facing drought issues during his reign. He was so ashamed of the situation and told his prime ministers that, "I am the ruler of the country, but my virtue is not enough to protect my people and cause this drought. If it still doesn't rain in 3 days, I will step down as the emperor. You should find another wise and prudent person to lead the country instead." Wenzong's prime ministers were all crying and asked to be punished. But the heavens did not have plans to change the emperor. It rained that night. So far, we've seen examples of how Chinese emperors dealt with disasters. But as a regular person, is there something we can do as well? The answer is the same: looking within and correcting oneself. In the book 太平广记, there was a story of a Taoist, Zhang Daolin. He was a scholar when he was young, but later realized that all the books he read had no help in extending his life whatsoever, so he started practicing Taoism. He led his disciples to live in Sichuan province and taught the local people how to live a better life. He didn't want to regulate people with laws, so instead he asked people who were sick to write down all the wrongdoings they have committed since they were born, and then throw the paper into water and make a vow to the gods to never commit them again, otherwise let the gods punish them with death. People who followed his suggestion all recovered. At the same time, their moral standards were lifted because they would feel ashamed for doing bad deeds and scared of catching a disease as punishment. Another example is from the Ming Dynasty. In the summer of 1511, there was a man named Gu Zhen. He and his family were all infected with the plague. So in order to cure their disease, he led his family to pray to heaven and vow to never eat meat again in the future. The entire family recovered as a result. Unfortunately, in Gu's case, he wasn't sincere with his promise and suffered the consequences. One day, he went into the city to get some rice. On his way home, he saw someone selling fish. He ignored his vow and bought 3 fish and ate them with wine. He went home and hid what he did from his family. But on the same day, he became sick again and died soon after. During the burial, Gu's family saw 3 fish jumping into his coffin, but couldn't find them anywhere. They were very confused until they asked someone who went into the city with Gu and found out what he did. His family then realized that those were the 3 fish he ate, and this was heaven's warning to everyone. Chinese people weren't the only ones who believed in heaven, gods, and karmic retribution. Even though people in the West had different religions and beliefs, moral values were more or less universal in ancient times. For example, in 1633, when a plague commonly known as the Black Death struck Europe again, it also hit a small town in Germany called Oberammergau. Local people were living in fear, so they prayed and made a vow to God that if they could be spared from the plague, they would perform a play that honors the divine every 10 years. After the vow was made, not a single inhabitant of the town died from the plague again. On top of that, all the town members that were suffering from the plague recovered. It was a miracle. And of course, the town people fulfilled their promise even till today. A Polish poet and Holocaust survivor once said a famous quote, "No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible." Are we truly not responsible for what happens in the world? That's something we can all think about. And hopefully, when the next calamity strikes, everyone can look within, change for the better, and be protected. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.